Right, hello YouTube, we're back with some Kerbal Space Program. Last time we did a flyby and orbit mission of Minmus, and this time we're going to try and go out to Minmus and land on it. Now, some of you eagle-eyed viewers might have looked at that and gone, what's that? That little black thing off in the distance out in the Space Center. Well, don't think we can get the camera on it, but it's a little secret thing that we'll maybe take a look at a future episode at some point. A little anomaly. Right. For now, like I said, we're going to try and land on Minmus. So, I actually think this is doable with the rocket we have, but it needs some minor modifications first before we attempt this. So I think we actually have enough fuel. It's not particularly fuel heavy. I will double check the Delta V chart. But I think this that will upgrade to the Moon of 4 should be able to just about do this mission. So, Minmus needs, at worst, 6,900-ish for a round trip. We have about 6,350, so we should be fine. We're in between. We're well on the good ways up for the for a return trip. That is the editing screen for an Astral Superior video. That's not the right window. Okay, so first of all, we need to take that off. That's blocking the hatch. Get out of it. That's still the editing thing. Oh dear, I'm doing well on this. I keep clicking off screen. The downside of having two screens. The upside is two screens. The downside is that. Right, a bit lower down. Solar panels. Power is no longer an issue. Let's also rename this to the 4. Check our total Delta V at the end of this. We could always expand some of the fuel tanks perhaps if we need to. Next thing, we need brain. Landing legs. That's the one. So our engine is here. So, what we need to do is fit our landing legs to make sure that they're actually tall enough to... Those are not. Actually tall enough to support us. We probably want 4. That should give us a nice stable footing. I think that's about as low as we can get them. It is lower than the engine nozzle, so it should be okay. I think we can offset them down a bit further. Yeah, there we go. Okay. We'll have them in gold foil, why not? Match the engine. Okay. We're still pretty good on fuel. I might be tempted to upgrade A stage, perhaps? I think we'll be alright, actually. We do have some new engines we could potentially upgrade, or we do have some new solid rockets we could potentially upgrade. Just to make 100% sure we could do it. Yeah, tell you what, let's design a new lower stage for it. Rather than this messy cluster, let's build something a bit smaller and a bit more compact. We need to make sure we have about 6,800, I think it was, at worst. Let's actually arrange those by size. Right, decoupler. Oh, actually, is that decoupler? That's larger, okay. I quite like the girder frame ones like the Russian rockets have. But in this case, not our correct option. Ooh, okay, so that's a larger form factor booster, but that would work. Do we have an adapter to actually mesh it smoothly with the rest of the rocket? It's not that one. That's too large. That's 2 meter, I think. That is also 2 meter. We need a 1 meter to a, what is it, 1.85, I think. That one's a little iffy because I'm pretty sure that's meant to be for a space station. As is that. That would do it, though. It's a little bit flat, but it should still work. Our thrust to weight ratio is a bit lower, so it actually should probably flex less, this one. Usually, a lot of the time, you're better keeping your rocket simple if you can manage it. You're better with one larger engine than lots of smaller ones. Okay, let's lower it a bit lower down. And we'll also fit some struts. We can fit them a little differently on this, so we can brace the rocket a bit better this time. Because it is probably still going to flex a little bit. And we'd like to keep that to a minimum, so we'll fit them there. Up to... Could go all the way up to there, actually. That might be a good way of doing it. Let's go to there. Okay, no, that doesn't quite work. But anyway, that should brace the rocket reasonably well, even if it looks a little strange. So it should flex less in flight. I don't believe we have any larger fuel tanks yet. Nope, that's something we could definitely invest into. So, staging. Couplers, booster, check. Decoupling there. Engine check. Decoupling there, engine check. Fuel, good. Higher than it was before. We should be good. Yeah, landings are perhaps not as difficult as they may seem. Now, this is going to be a little trickier than some of the flights we've done so far, but I believe this rocket should be fully capable of landing on Minmus, grabbing some science, and then bringing it all back. So long as we're careful. When have I ever not been careful? Ignore the explosions from some of the early episodes. Jeb lived. No one actually died, as far as we know. So, well, no one stayed dead at any rate. So, no harm done. Just a few explosions. Right. We have brought Valentina again, which is the wrong... Not the pilot we were intending to bring. We wanted to bring Jeb. But you know what? Since Val's eager, so I guess she got up earlier and got in the pod. I guess Jeb's still having a lie-in or something maybe. So, I guess Valentina's coming with us. Right. 3, 2, 1, liftoff. A little less dramatic, but a lot more controllable than our previous launch. Wait until we get to about 1,000 as usual, then we'll start our gravity turn. Ah, look at that. Nowhere near as much wobble as previously. That's much nicer. It is building up power, but not uncontrollably so. Let's continue our turn a little bit more. So we want to turn to about 45 if we can manage it. We'll be a little bit careful that your rocket doesn't become uncontrollable, but I think we're going to be okay. And there we go, we're on mark. This marker, as said, is actually showing us what actual direction we're going at, but that's close enough that it's fine for me. And as you can see, it's caught up a bit anyway as we continue to go. So this should get us onto a decent high angle sort of arc. Apoapsis is climbing. I think we might even hit about 100 dead actually with this booster. Look at that. 90, it's a little below. It's fine. We will actually ditch that fuel tank. Normally it can help you keep your momentum a bit, keeping the heavier lower stages extra mass, but because it's got that flat adapter, it's probably got a little bit of drag on it. So we're actually gonna, it's probably not awful, but it'll have a little bit, so we'll actually ditch that. And use a tiny bit of fuel from our upper stage. Right. Utilities, auto stage, up to stage 2, as usual. Did we enable that? Yes, good. Climb up a little bit until we leave the atmosphere. Let's see how much fuel it takes us to circularize. Not very much. In fact, we're actually going to have a bit of fuel left in this stage, whereas you notice we were very close previously. Now, it's partly due to the new booster, but that's partly also due to a slightly better ascent. Again, don't neglect your solid rockets, people. They are a good, cheap way to get you to orbit. A little uncontrollable, sure, but good way to do it. The only thing is MechJeb suffers a little bit from them, because they're not controllable. If you have a fairly big solid rocket booster and it would take you past your intended altitude that you set it to orbit at, it can throw it off a little bit because it goes, you've got up too far. But you can always adjust it by resetting the altitude you want it to orbit at to be close to wherever the solid rocket booster's actually ended you up at. Unless you're trying to do quite a precision maneuvering, like if you're trying to launch straight to a rendezvous with, say, a space station, in which case you might be better just using liquid fuel boosters and paying a bit more money for the reliability instead. In this case, all looks to be going well. Oh, you can actually see how much money and such you've made. I like to keep it secret until the end of the mission, so that I know they can be like, oh, look at that reward we've got. But yeah, you can actually see it. You also have reputation. I believe completing contracts puts this up. Failing them puts it down, and you get better contracts the higher your reputation is, and you can also use it for certain strategies. which I don't tend to use, but they're little bonus things you can set to be like, I want, I don't know, less money, but more science or whatever. Science is a bit of a tricky one to actually get more of, but... Or you can sell certain things to get more of something. Right. Minmus, as before. Homan transfer even. To target. We're going to need to move it to our next stage, but that's good, because we're going to need that. We're going to have a bit less leeway with this flight, because again, we're going to need to actually land on it and come back. But then again, as you saw, we don't actually need much fuel to land on Minmus. And we should be good. We were on the higher end of the chart for Delta V, so should be perfectly fine. NASA might have to work to extremely strict tolerances, but Kerbal Space Program is a little bit looser. Although there is a real solar system overhaul for this mod, for this game, which will turn the whole game into effectively a sort of replica of the real space program. Really, it's a little difficult, shall I say? By which I mean, if you don't understand normal Kerbal fairly well, you're probably going to struggle an awful lot with it. But it can be interesting. It's certainly a very different experience playing with that on. Yeah, the other thing is if you have to stage mid-burn, that can sometimes throw off the timing a little bit, but we're not doing a particularly precision maneuver here. We should be fine. You notice it staged us a bit late. It might actually still be right. It might have accounted for the different burn time from the other stage, but they do not know. However, like all's good. Not generating any power at the moment because the planet's in the way, but you know, so our power is still pretty much full. Not my it's probably for the alternator, but yes, so we do have the solar panels either way, so as long as there's a bit of sun, our batteries can recharge. Testing the landing legs. Those appear to be working. Doesn't generate any extra drag because we're not in the atmosphere. But yes, this should be taking us out as planned. What we'll probably want to do is circularize at a fairly low orbit, probably about 20 kilometers, and then pick our landing site from orbit. We'll let MechJeb make us a maneuver to put us down. Or not put us down. MechJeb run a maneuver that we've made to put us down in the right area. Then we'll use Warp Helper set to Suicide Burn, which is when you would activate your engines to bring you to a dead stop at the last possible second, but we'll give it a bit of lead time so we can actually stop a little bit ahead of that, and then we can go in for the actual landing. Now, the Hopper transfer has not worked perfectly here. Sometimes a thing that happens, it just doesn't always seem to get them right, but you can usually do a second one and it won't use much fuel and it'll get you there. I guess it's because it had to stage midway, it threw it off slightly. By the way, we should be fine. As long as we get an encounter, that's the main thing. It's not very difficult to adjust your orbit when you're quite high up above a planet, so... Yeah, the closer you are to a planet, I believe, usually the harder it is to adjust your sort of direction and everything, apart from for slowing down. Right. We do have to get this right, because if we don't, we will be kicked off into deep space. Which is not ideal. We're not really aiming to end up there. So, right. Quick save. Not that we couldn't come back. We actually have quite a lot of fuel. We could almost certainly actually return to Kerman if we needed to from deep space, but... Val was not really kitted out for this, so... Let's try and bring her back as we actually planned, shall we? I also just noticed these are new. I don't remember these. I don't know if this is a mod thing or a stock thing, but I'm going to not touch them just in case. Right. If you remember from before, change periaps to 20 kilometers after 60 seconds. Execute. I normally do create node and then execute, but I think we'll be okay on this one because it's only small. Just about see everything. There's Kerbal, which is the sun. Shining away there. No, you can't land on it, even at night. I think you can go pretty close, but it's actually surprising. This is something I didn't know about rocket science until I played these games. It is surprisingly difficult to actually get to a sun on real rocket science. It takes actually quite a lot to slow down enough to actually drop yourself into it. which you maybe wouldn't expect, but apparently is the case. Right. Now we want to circularize around it. But yeah, actually getting to Moho, which is the planet nearest to it. This one. It actually takes quite a lot of fuel. It's one of the hardest to actually get to, which is a bit odd. We could potentially do a colony there as well. We wanted to do one at the far end of the solar system on Eeloo. We could also go to both extremes, do one, so one on the hottest planet and one on the coldest planet, perhaps. Could be interesting. We'll maybe give that some consideration. There's our electric charge is full though, despite not having the thing running, because our solar panel's on the top. You do have to consider that the solar panels have to be facing the sun. You can get some that will automatically pivot on an axis to face the sun, but we don't have any of those yet. We're stuck with the basic fixed small square panel. And to be fair, that will do you for most of the game. Most missions, just having one of those facing the sun is probably all you need 99% of the time. But some of the late game stuff that we're planning to use, the electrical stuff, we're going to need a lot more power than one of those piddly solar panels are going to put out for us. So, right, now, the only problem here is at the moment, the good landing spots are facing away from the sun, and we'd like to be able to see when we're landing. But we are critically going to be able to need to see when we're landing, so that should do it. Let it orbit a few times while the planet rotates. While the moon rotates. We can add a maneuver here. Bring us down. Counting for the fact that we do have to count a little bit for the fact that while we're going down, the planet is going to be rotating that way. That should be fine. If we aim for the far end of it, we should land somewhere in the middle probably. So that will bring us down to the surface. And you notice, tiny amount of fuel, almost nothing. It really is easy to maneuver around Minmus. This is why I say I recommend it for people. Oh, we're even facing almost exactly the right way as well. But yeah, that is why partly why I recommend it for people to land on. It's so easy. Hang on a sec. Abort node execution quickly. Just rotate it a bit further. Move it around a bit. We'll have to chase it a little bit, but it's fine. Haven't got so far to go this time, so it shouldn't move quite as much. But yeah, like I say, we don't want to land on the slopes at the edge. The flat bits are wonderfully easy to land on. The slopes are tricky. You don't typically want to be landing on slopes. There's a reason NASA picks their landing spots. We'll say this much. But with the advantage of having a nice flat landing spot, the actual landing process should be quite easy. It is 2 steps, as said. First, we want to point retrograde, because Val will apparently forget that by the time we get down, as we found in one of the early episodes. What is retrograde? Smartass will not forget it. Quick save. Warp helper. Like I said, suicide burn is when, if I run my engines on full, do I need to slow down to not smash into the surface? Basically, if you time a suicide burn perfectly, in theory, you will stop at 0 meters a second, or next to no meters a second. But we want to give it a little bit of leeway, so we'll give it 10 seconds. Go. See how the planet's rotating. We're going to be okay. There's the planes. Time warp running out. Okay, retrograde straight away. And go. Okay, we maybe do have a little bit of gimbal control actually, because we gained a little bit more control there. Landing gear. Extend. Okay. If anything, it actually possibly estimated a little bit there. Need to just gently bring our speed down to 0. Next to 0. And ideally, we will drop pretty much straight down. Come on, hurry up, McJib. Now we're still a few hundred meters up, but you're being a little slow about this. Okay, yeah, I need to turn it off and now take a bit of manual control. Its tilt goes a bit too far the other way. You can see from the retrograde marker which way we're going. you don't really want to be moving horizontally across the surface if you can help it. Tell you what, actually, yeah, use the stop the game's built-in one. Don't know why that one's been weird today, but that right. But we can rely on Valentina's piloting today, it would seem, more than the autopilots. And given our earlier mission, I suppose that makes sense. Yes. We probably want to land at a little under 1 if we can. But we've got landing legs, we should be able to touch down a little bit of speed. Just very carefully adjust the throttle. And we are down. Beautiful touchdown, Val. Excellent work. And there we go, our first exoplanetary landing. Take a look at that. Oh, we didn't bring a science kit with us. I forgot about that. Oh, that's fine. Forgetting things is the name of the game when it comes to my space flights. Right. Mystery goo. You observed the goo. It's worth 50 science on the surface of Minmus. It's pretty good. 60. Collected and recorded atmospheric pressure data from the surroundings. Not much, I imagine. At all. Collected and recorded temperature data. And observed materials bay. While the material samples were processed, you thought... while the material surface samples were processed, you began to turn your thoughts to how much Minmus looks like a mint desert that have discovered. You are now hungry. 125. Very nice. And of course, crew report. Called the crew's assessment of the surroundings. Yeah, boring. But there's a little more we can do. In fact, we might even head back to the science center, so there's even more we can do. But I think we can actually do it already. Use the jetpack to land carefully. We can do a moonwalk. Whee! Fine, once you get to the top, you should do a little like, ah. There it is. Woo! So she's having fun. Surprisingly enough, though, despite having come all this way, they're actually usually in Kerbal. Isn't actually that much to do on the planets. It's one of the biggest problems. Is that the majority of things we could do on the planet, we could do very quickly. Because the majority of it is EVA report, not remove helmet. You feel a bit like a superhero when you jump about in the low gravity. And we can, I think we're going to have to go back and do that upgrade. We should be able to take a surface sample. But I think we need to upgrade the astronaut center. And no, it doesn't matter that we're not actually back at the astronaut center to receive whatever training, equipment, etc. that would be needed to do this. We can just upgrade it, and as far as I'm aware, it will still give us access to taking surface samples. And we will do that, because they're worth quite a lot of science. I'm pretty sure they have to be brought back, I think, but... Oh, there's another video finishing rendering. One moment, I'm just going to pause the recording briefly to sort something. Okay, so we're back at the Space Center. I accidentally advanced the day, because I forgot that I was mid-mission. I've had a quick lunch break while the recording paused. But yes, to allow us to do surface samples, we need to upgrade the R&D building. 400,000, yeah, it's the most expensive building upgrade we've done so far, but we're pretty well off, so we'll take it. And yeah, 1.69 million for the final tier upgrade. I did say the research building is expensive. But yes, so we've done that upgrade. Val should now be able to take surface samples, and we can research up to 500 science cost tech. And speaking of, we'll be able to do some higher tier research in a minute, because we'll soon be back with a lot of science if this mission continues well. But before we do that, we've got to actually make Val, well, take that surface sample. Up here she is. The lander was so excited to see us, it did a little jump. Yes, there we go. Take surface sample. You sneak a taste of the surface sample. Nope, it is definitely not made of delicious dessert products. Yeah, sadly, Val, it might look like mint chocolate chip ice cream, but it's not. Right. I think we're good. I think we're good to head back. Not sure why the science alert's going off like crazy. We can't do anything else at this point. Don't have a science kit. Yes, you don't actually need a ladder. You can just float up to your craft. They sometimes even recommend it because Kerbal's ladders are a mysterious thing that do not function reliably. For the most part, I would say. That was not the right button. Don't want to enable... I guess all enabled. Okay. I think I accidentally enabled aerodynamic forces. That was not intentional. Hopefully that won't actually be a problem. Right. We need to take off. It's basically exactly the same as taking off from Kerbin, but way easier. Air perhaps is high enough. Circularize. Notice how, again, little fuel it needs. 132 to circularize. It takes 4,000 to lift off from Kerbin, and circularize. This takes about 300. Let's just drift upwards until we're at the right height and then burn sideways. Close the doors on that. Close the doors on this. So that seems to think they're already open, which is interesting. Animations are a little bit weird. Oh, we've got into a slightly polar-ish orbit. A little bit wonky, but that's fine. We're only trying to come back. Turn from the moon. Taking us quite high up, but that's fine. Just drop it back down again once we're up in space. I guess, actually, hopefully said today, it's not too scary a thing, landing on another planet. Evidently, having the autopilot really helps. You'd have to do a lot more guesswork if you're doing it yourself, but it's not too bad. I think any of you could probably manage this manually with a bit of practice, perhaps. Remember, you've got quick save and quick load, so you can try again if it goes wrong. F5 is quick save, holding F9 is quick load. Just so you all know. Yeah, that's fine. We'll cut that there. And drifting out. Back into Kerbin sphere of influence. Okay, and then change periaps to 100 and accept wipes. Aim for another nice gentle landing if we can manage it. Again, we've got solar panels, so electricity is no longer a worry, like it has been before. Now, if we were running, for example, electrical engines that are running off solar panels, we might have to worry a little bit more about that sort of thing. There's Kerbin down there, and there's the moon. So we're a long way above it this time. Or above in relative terms, given this is space and up and down aren't really a thing. There's probably a scientific term for it, but I don't know what it is. And circularize it. Periaps. Whoa, actually, maybe not. That's going to use quite a lot of our fuel. In that case... Tell you what. A quick save. I might actually just drop our periaps a little bit lower. We'll just go in for a shallow re-entry. Aim for maybe 30 kilometers. I'll do. Right. We've got 46 seconds of fuel. Warp helper. Atmospheric entry, 30 seconds. Fine if we're burning a little way into the atmosphere because we'll be slowing down at the same time. So it'll be 30 seconds to when we would have hit the atmosphere, but given we'll be slowing down, that'll actually buy us a bit more time until we actually would. And I'm also glad I'm not the one who has to do the maths for things like this. The only thing I have realised is missing on Kerbin, even with our visual overhaul mods, it doesn't have any clouds. I only just realised that. Or at least not ones we could see from space. Yeah, we could always add more later, I suppose, if we want. I try to avoid at the moment for doing too much more with the mods, because again, too many part mods causes lag, and that could be the same with the visual ones. And also, I don't want to break the mod setup because I only barely got this all working. It was actually a bit of a pain on day one to actually get this all set up. It took about half a day actually fiddling about. But that was also, considering I was also doing other things like rendering and uploading more vids. Because again, I'm trying to get a whole bunch of these done ahead of time to mass production YouTube for a week while I wait for my current game release to come out. And then after that's out, it'll be on to the sequel, basically. Got to do some planning for that one. I know the rough idea for the plot, but it is rough at the moment. I need to work out what areas everyone's going to visit and everything, and the main beats and everything. Lots to do. Right, we don't need that stuff anymore. A bit of spin on it should hopefully throw it off to the side a little bit. Make sure the parachute's up so it's less likely to burn. Cargo thingy's getting hot. Cargo science pod even is getting hot. Again, rotating a little bit to shut off a little extra heat. Oh, we have got aerodynamic overlay enabled. I will look up after this recording. You can see that it's showing you the drag. That's meant to be for debug. I didn't mean to enable that. I'll look up after this recording how I can turn that off. You see, I'm going to get a tiny bit of drag off the parachute by the look of it. Must actually be catching the air a little bit. It's going to be okay. I usually put the ablator display up just to check it doesn't look like it's going to burn up, but that's looking fine. You can see the drag on the craft in various directions. I think we're coming down over water this time. Now, water in Kerbal is a weird thing. It used to be, if anything, more dangerous to try and land in the water than it did on the ground. And I'm not... While some of that has changed, you can actually build seaplanes and things now. I'm not 100% sure that the water is much safer, even these days. Because the difference is, if you hit the land, you sort of bounce off of it. So if the collision resistance on your parts, for example, is like a little bit too low, you might lose one part, bounce a little bit, or at least slow down a bit, and then the next parts will survive. With the water, if you hit it too fast, it doesn't slow you down. So you just smash into it. So yeah, it's a little bit weird. You can, again, design things like seaplanes that will actually, you know, are actually designed to land on water and could skim to a happy halt on the surface if you don't land too quickly, but it's a little iffy. You have to be quite careful with it, and you are much safer landing on it with a plane than you are with a rocket. Speaking of, let's cut these down to 600. I think it's what we did before. That way it slows us down about 100 meters from the water. Don't spend too long here because, again, you can't see very well on YouTube as far as I can tell. I certainly can't see very well. I'm sitting here in the room. Don't see the water below. But yes, it's very realistic that we would sometimes land at night, but also I can't see anything. Drifting down gently. Again, I'll turn that aerodynamics overlay off. I've done that before by accident. I still don't know what the key is to actually turn it off. Alright. Gladiator is down safely, and we really need to remember to actually roll Jeb out for the next mission. He can maybe do the moon landing then, if he, seeing as we didn't quite get the Minmus landing, but we'll probably need a new craft for that. As I said, the moon is a little less forgiving. Gravity's a bit higher. Surface is a lot worse. So it's a little bit of a trick. Aim for a really big crater maybe and try and land in it. Okay, we've gained over... Well, we're up to over 500 data, 600 data for science. Excellent. Bit of money. Reputation. And that's about it. And a world first, I think, for, yeah, returning home from the surface of Minmus. And we had some for landing on it as well, but they got processed when I came back to the Space Center. Hope you all enjoyed that episode. As I always try to remember to remind you, I am a games dev as well as a reviewer and let's player and whatever. So if you want to support the channel, Like, comment, subscribe, all that normal stuff is good, but the absolute best way is to check out the description, because I've got a link to the 2 games I've made in there. You might like them. Maybe give them a look. And I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.